If you feel stuck in a relationship that's really unhappy or negative, but you aren't necessarily ready to leave, here are 4 of my favorite suggestions for trying to stay positive in an unhappy relationship. Number 1, reframe your situation as a decision, not a curse. When you're honest with yourself that you are choosing to remain in a very difficult situation, perhaps for some pretty good reasons, you reclaim agency and power that most people, unfortunately, give away without even realizing it when they think of their situation as something that happens to them, some tragic turn of events. Now, when I think about this idea, I always think of a client of mine from a few years ago. And this client came into coaching working with me, and they were really upset because of what they called their unfair relationship. His wife, this guy's wife, he described as constantly negative, very pessimistic, really critical about things, while he, on the other hand, was, putting in the good fight to, make sure that he stayed positive all the time and always looked on the bright side and tried to remain upbeat and optimistic in the relationship. Now, this was the story he was telling himself. And as a result of this story, he didn't realize how much of the overall negativity in the relationship was coming directly from him, from this story he kept telling himself anytime he found, that his wife was negative or something was unhappy or not going the way he wanted it to in the relationship. So his story was actually producing a lot of the negativity that he was experiencing. Eventually, what we worked on was to reframe the situation as a choice, including thinking really hard through the possibility of what if he left? What if they got separated or divorced? And while this was really hard in the short term, in the long term, it was actually extremely empowering by the end. And it decreased his overall negativity in the situation. It didn't change everything. It was still tough and difficult, but he didn't feel so helpless anymore because he took agency over his story. It's human nature to attribute negative circumstances to bad luck or fate or defects in other people, but this is a trap and it will only perpetuate your negativity. Much more helpful is to reframe the relationship as a choice, one with significant trade-offs that you nonetheless take full responsibility for. It's hard in the moment, but I guarantee you will find it a much more positive route overall in the long run. Now, as a sort of bonus or add-on to this suggestion, I would really recommend starting to think through your values and how they connect to that decision to stay in the relationship. And better yet, remind yourself of those values on a regular basis. The reason is, values are incredibly motivating. The things that matter most to us, those are the things that motivate us and keep us kind of buoyant in difficult circumstances. So when you're having a hard time in your relationship, something gets very stressful or very negative, remind yourself, I am choosing to stay in this relationship for various reasons. And the value behind that choice, the big reason why I'm choosing to stay is X, whatever your value happens to be. Now, by doing that, you're going to instill a sense of intrinsic motivation and you're going to feel less negative. So clarifying the value behind your decision to stay can really kind of supercharge the positive effect of this strategy. If you're interested in learning more about values and how values clarification can help with all sorts of things, including your relationships, I have a free resource called the Values Discovery Toolkit, and you can download it for free. I'll put a little link in the show notes where you can get that. All right, let's move on to the second tip, which is practice expectation-free assertiveness. Now, it's kind of a mouthful. Expectation-free assertiveness. Let's break it down. A lot of chronic negativity in relationships comes from the fact that people are too passive and not assertive enough. You might be afraid to ask for what you really want or say what you really don't want. You might chronically hold back from expressing how you actually feel or what you actually believe. Or you might, set boundaries, but then when people resist, you kind of cave and give up on them. These are all examples of being passive rather than assertive in how you communicate and interact in your relationships. Now, there's a million reasons why it's difficult to be assertive. Everything from how you were raised and the models you had when you were young to simply not knowing how assertiveness actually works, like the difference, for instance, between assertiveness and aggression. A lot of people are afraid to be assertive because they conflate it with being aggressive. But one of the most kind of sneakily common reasons why people stay passive and have a hard time being more assertive in their relationships is because on a really core level, they don't think it will work. Usually because they've tried it previously and the other person didn't take it very well or didn't listen or respect their requests or wishes. Now, this is really understandable, but there's some major problems with this kind of conclusion that people draw about assertiveness. The first is, it takes more than once. Like with any skill, from running marathons to playing the piano, it takes repetition. You can't expect to practice piano for 2 weeks and then play like Beethoven. It's just not going to happen. You could probably play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star after a week or two of practice, but you're not playing Rachmaninoff concertos. That's going to take more repetition. Same with assertiveness. Just because you realize, oh, I need to be more assertive, and then you walk up and you decide, okay, today I'm going to be more assertive about what I actually want. Well, it shouldn't be all that surprising if it's tough or if it doesn't go super well, because it's a skill you have not developed very much. And so both your competence and your confidence in that skill are probably going to be relatively low. It takes practice. But the second thing is the benefits, and I want to say this one is so underrated. So many people miss this. They think of assertiveness as a technique to get what they want from other people or to get other people to do what they think they should do. That is not at all what assertiveness is. Assertiveness is about taking responsibility for your own communication, your own wants and needs. It is about you, your behavior. Now, what this means, though, is that the benefits of assertiveness are primarily about the effect they have on you, regardless of the outcome or what other people do in response. If you decide to become more assertive, even if it doesn't fundamentally change the situation or what the other person does or feels or believes, getting into the habit of communicating assertively will help you to feel more confident and more authentic. Because what you're doing when you're being assertive is that you're expressing who you really are and what you really believe and want and don't want. You're being authentic. And when your brain sees you doing this over and over and over again, your self-esteem and confidence will rise, regardless of whether it quote unquote goes well or not. Don't let the expectation that assertiveness won't change the relationship or your partner. Don't let that be an obstacle to you practicing and becoming more assertive. Because even if it changes nothing about the other person or the relationship, it will change you and for the better. And you will find that it's much easier to stay positive amid all the negativity when you're getting that healthy inflow of self-esteem and confidence that only comes from being assertive. If you want to learn more about assertive communication, I have another little resource that I put together. Again, you can download it for free. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's called the Assertive Communication Cheat Sheet, and it just assembles a lot of my favorite tips and suggestions for communicating more assertively. So check that out. Number 3, spend more time with people you enjoy. In all sorts of areas of our lives, it's really easy to get fixated on the negative, on what's wrong, and on trying to fix and improve what's wrong. Unfortunately, this kind of problem solver mindset, it often leads to this unintended consequence of you forget about the other side of the equation. Besides limiting the negative, we can always work to increase the positive. Those are very different strategies. And one of the best ways to work on increasing the amount of positivity in your life, in part to outweigh the negativity, is to spend more time around genuinely positive people. People, not just people who are like happy-go-lucky and optimistic, but people for whom, when you're with them, you just feel better. You feel lighter. You feel more authentic. You feel more free. You feel more joyful. Whatever it is, calmer. These are the people who bring positivity into your lives. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person, and people who you find to be kind of hard to be around are bad people. It's just different. We have different sort of fits with different types of people. And for all of us, certain types of people or certain unique individuals add a lot of positivity to our lives. But when we're so focused on that one person or that handful of people in our life who are super negative, and that's kind of all we can think about, we're just dwelling on it and ruminating on them and worrying about them and just spending so much energy. It's like they're a black hole, and we're just pouring energy and thoughts and feelings and all sorts of stuff into that black hole, and we get nothing to show for it. If anything, we feel worse, right? It leads to even more negativity. Meanwhile, we got all these people over here, maybe not all, but often at least one or two people in our lives who are a tremendous source of positivity, but we're kind of ignoring them. We forget about that. This doesn't have to be super complicated or hard. It can be as simple as something like, you commit to calling up an old friend once a week. Maybe on Tuesday afternoons, you go for a walk and you try an old friend, see if they pick up or not. If they don't, try someone else. Doesn't take that much time. Or it might be something even smaller. Maybe you just take a few extra seconds when you're getting your coffee at Starbucks and you have a little mini conversation with that barista who's always really friendly, or the checkout clerk at the grocery store. These are little micro moments of positivity. And while they might not seem like much, adding just a little bit more of this into your life on a regular basis can really help to offset the kind of primarily negative relationship you have in some other important aspect of your life. So look for opportunities to spend more time around people who are genuinely positive. It's worth saying here, if your primary romantic relationship, your spouse, your partner, whatever, if that's highly negative, that's always going to affect the way you feel. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat this, right? That's just going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of negativity. But it doesn't mean you're helpless to improve things, at least at the margin. And almost everyone has the capability of reaching out to someone that they really enjoy and love spending time with, and to invest a little bit more time and energy into that relationship. The last thing I'll say on this is that you almost certainly have more support and positivity in your life than you realize, usually in the form of other people and relationships. But you need to engage with those people, cultivate connections. You have to invest if you want to feel the benefits of those relationships that are surrounding you, even if you're not always aware of them. Number 4, acknowledge your role in the unhappiness. Now, this is by far the hardest one to hear. So if you get a little defensive or angry listening to this one, hang in there, because this is something that it affects all of us. We are all vulnerable to this. We all do this in some way. But in a lot of ways, this strategy, I think, holds the greatest potential for changing things. So acknowledge your role in the unhappiness. I'm a psychologist. I used to be a therapist, so I spent a lot of time around other therapists, including couples counselors. And one of the things you learn really quickly if you talk to a lot of couples counselors is that when you talk to people who go into couples counseling, a couple, right, who are having problems, they go into couples counseling, and you have a conversation with either one of the people and you try to get at basically like whose fault is it? Almost inevitably, person A says, well, it's mostly their fault. Or person B says, well, it's really mostly their fault. Again, this is human nature. I'm not judging anyone. This is just the way we operate. But what's interesting is if you talk to couples counselors, they almost always will tell you, it's a pretty even mixture. Especially as I've started talking to both of these people and gotten to know the full story, almost always it's pretty close to 50-50. The cases where it's like 90% one person and only 10% another person, actually very rare. So the takeaway from this is that if a relationship is seriously unhappy, it's almost never one person's fault exclusively. Now, I know it probably doesn't feel that way, but I would really encourage you, again, even if it feels a little hard or tough to acknowledge this, at least reflect and consider this as a possibility. One of the implications of this, if you do, is that, again, uncomfortable as it may be, you may be playing a bigger role in your own unhappiness and the negativity that you feel in the relationship than you realize or want to admit. But here's the good news. Within that admittedly painful admission is one of your biggest opportunities for growth and renewed positivity in the relationship. Because the more willing you are to genuinely acknowledge your role in the negativity and to work hard to address it, the more likely your partner is to do the same thing. So to get started, here's a more kind of crystallized version of that idea I suggested earlier. It's a question that I really want you to think about. How do I benefit from this relationship being unhappy? Now, at first glance, that probably sounds like a ridiculous question, but almost always there are subtle but important dynamics people aren't aware of in a relationship that are perpetuating the negativity from both sides. So just to give you some examples of how these play out, these are kind of classic psychological examples, but something like the first one would be a savior complex. A savior complex, this is like kind of an old-fashioned term, but basically what it means is a lot of your self-esteem or maybe even your identity comes from being in relationships with people who need your help a lot. So if your partner is a chronically negative person, for instance, even though that's stressful and really irritating a lot of the time, maybe that feeds some really big need in you. And so on net, it's actually kind of a positive because it's feeding this big important part of your identity as the one who is the helper or the savior or the one who fixes things or supports other people. Another example would be this old phrase, the devil you know. which sort of gets at, for a lot of us, no matter how bad a situation is, the fact that it's familiar keeps it tolerable, because for some of us, we are so afraid of uncertainty that we will do just about anything to avoid it, including unconsciously maintaining a dynamic in a relationship that's characterized by this high degree of negativity. So to make this more real, think back to that client I described earlier. This is the one who was really upset in his relationship because he felt like his wife was super negative all the time and just really pessimistic and glasses half empty and all that. But he was really trying super hard to be positive and maintain the relationship. So what happened was, by owning his decision to stay in the relationship, he had this insight, which was that he might actually have been playing a role in the negativity of the relationship because he was impacting his wife's tendency to be and feel really negative a lot of the time. And how that worked is, what he learned was that a lot of his wife's negativity was sort of a semi-conscious reaction to what she perceived to be his unrealistic, irrational, even toxic positivity, which, if you've never heard that term before, that often refers to when people use positivity as a defense mechanism. So they are kind of irrationally positive because it helps them deal with some sort of fear or insecurity. And so she was feeling like he was being overly positive, and as a result, and this was really key for him, he was not being honest about how he actually felt, especially the negative stuff. She realized or intuited that he was not happy with certain things, but he wasn't being straightforward about it. He insisted, because he had this tendency toward kind of unhealthy levels of positivity, to just like whitewash everything and pretend everything was fine and super great. And so she reacted to that with a proportional degree of negativity. So in this situation, it's really important to see nobody is trying to be the bad guy. In fact, everyone in their own way is actually trying to be the good guy. Most times, unless you're partnered up with a true psychopath, everybody is trying to do the right thing. We're often just really confused, understandably, about what will get us to the outcomes we want. Again, while it's likely to trigger some defensiveness, I think it's really worth pondering this question, especially if you've been in a relationship, an unhappy relationship, for a long time. This question of, how do I benefit from this relationship being unhappy? If you can start to answer that question honestly, it may open you up to making some changes that will ultimately improve the relationship and make it a much more authentically positive experience overall. All right, that's it for today's video. If you're interested in learning more about improving your relationships, building confidence, and other aspects of emotional health, I send out a weekly newsletter, which you can join for free at nicksnewsletter.com. And if you like this video, here's another one I think you'll enjoy.